And start streaming. Okay. We're both recording and streaming now. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'll be presenting on LLM, basically just making them more useful through the model context protocol. And then just kind of like building your own model context protocols locally. So my install and stuff like that mostly uses Ollama just because it's super lightweight and you can run it locally. Aside from that, depending on your use case, you might want to look into like fine tuning the model for your whatever you're using it for, things like that. I actually can't see this screen on my laptop. So I used Gemini to build a lot of, and Notebook LLM to build a lot of the notes, which I can also share with all of you. There's a bunch of like links and stuff as well, so if you want some of the other resources, you're welcome to them. This is like basically just a mind map. Am I in the corner there? No, okay.
Do you want to turn off the light or something?
You can turn off one of them, I think.
Okay.
The other one. Oh.
Apparently that is
Yeah,
the only one.
that's the only one. Okay. But yeah, this is... Here, let me make it bigger, but it's just a little bit of like some of the concepts in it. Yikes. Does not want to do any of the touchpad stuff. And I can barely read any of this. Okay.
Would a mouse help?
Probably.
I just think it's dying.
The demo gods are not kind today.
Wondered what the next big
it's not even outputting in the right place.
Actually look like.
That's a good question.
We seem to be moving beyond these single, super smart AI bots.
Yeah, towards something potentially much more powerful.
Like collaborative teams. Right?
This is also a podcast I created through basically Notebook LLM, which is Google's research. It's like basically you can give it like 300 different sources, and the LLMs will look through it and give you like a breakdown over it in an audio format, and you can also make like mind maps, a bunch of stuff like that. Their voices are pretty good for AI generated voices.
Dive is to unpack the protocols and tools making
this is about an hour long. This one's probably 7 minutes, but there is an hour long one here too. So that you're welcome to as well. That's just like supporting resources.
It's not just one AI doing it all.
No, definitely not. It's specialists, agents designed for specific tasks, working together on complex problems. Things with multiple steps.
And the key must be how they talk to each other.
Absolutely fundamental. You can almost think of it like...
Yeah.
Can it be a little louder?
a new kind of OSI model, but for AI agents.
Oh, interesting. A layered approach.
Exactly. Different layers for different communication jobs. Keeps things organized, stops that overload we mentioned. Clear roles.
So what's at the bottom, the base layer?
At layer 1, our sources point to something called the Model Context Protocol,
Yeah.
MCP. Anthropic actually open sourced it.
Okay, MCP. What's its job?
Think of it like the USB-C port for an agent.
A standard connector.
Yeah. It standardizes how an agent securely plugs into external tools. Databases, APIs, other resources. It's all about capability. Giving the agent the right tools securely.
Got it. So MCP is about connecting to tools. What about connecting to other agents?
Right, that's layer 2. This is where the agent-to-agent collaboration really happens.
Okay.
And there are a couple of key protocols here. Google's working on A2A, agent-to-agent.
A2A.
Yeah, it focuses on that high-level task delegation, like, hey, other agent, can you handle this part, even between agents from totally different companies? And it's designed for tasks that might take a while.
And the other one?
IBM has ACP, the Agent Communication Protocol. That one seems more geared towards general messaging, maybe faster back and forth chatter, especially within, say, a local cluster of agents.
Okay. So different protocols for different kinds of agent chat. A2A for big tasks, ACP for maybe more local stuff.
Seems to be the way it's shaping up.
And this layering makes a lot of sense conceptually, but the really interesting part for developers listening, how does this all work together, the synergy?
Right.
Can you maybe walk us through a practical example, seeing the layers in action?
Sure. Let's use that car repair shop scenario from our sources. It illustrates it pretty well.
Okay, car repair.
So your personal agent talks to the shop's main agent, the repair shop agent. That initial chat, my engine's making a weird noise, that's likely using A2A, high-level problem description.
Right, the big picture conversation.
Exactly. But then, when the repair shop agent needs to actually, do something, like check the parts inventory system, or access its internal diagnostic database, that's where MCP comes in. It uses MCP to securely connect to its specific tools.
Ah, I see. So A2A for agent-to-agent talk, MCP for agent-to-tool talk.
I got it. It's a really clean separation. Lets each agent and each tool focus on what it does best without getting tangled up.
That car analogy really helps, like a specialized team. Makes total sense. Okay, so if you're building this stuff, what tools are becoming essential?
Well, first things first, you need to run the models themselves.
Right, and maybe not always in the cloud, for cost or privacy.
Exactly. And that's where something like Olama comes in. Our sources mention it quite a bit.
Olama, what's the benefit there?
It just makes it way easier to run large language models locally, right on your own machine. Great for tinkering, for privacy.
And for building those specialized agents we talked about, like a dedicated data analyst agent.
Perfect for that. You can define its capabilities with a simple model file. It's really empowering for developers.
Okay, so Olama for running models locally. What about the server side? Building the actual agent infrastructure.
Yeah, for the back end, the server part, FastAPI gets highlighted as like the professional's choice.
FastAPI, why that specifically?
Performance is key, right?
Yeah.
Agents talking to tools, talking to each other. It's a lot of I/O. FastAPI is asynchronous.
Ah, so it handles many connections efficiently.
Exactly. It won't grind to a halt. Plus, it integrates Pydantic for data validation.
What do you mean?
It means strict checks on the data being passed around. No malformed requests causing chaos down the line. Super important in complex systems. And it even auto-generates API docs, which is always nice.
Okay, good tools are crucial. But this brings up another point. How do these agents actually remember things? Conversations. LLMs have limits, don't they?
That's a critical point. The intelligence isn't just the LLM. It's how the whole system manages context. And yeah, LLMs have token limits. It's like their working memory.
So you can't just keep feeding the whole chat history back in forever.
Nope. It would just forget the beginning. The agent would seem, well, incoherent after a while.
So what do?
You need smart strategies. Things like summarizing older parts of the conversation or maybe pruning less relevant messages. It's essential for making the agent feel like it actually remembers you and the interaction over time.
Right. Context management is key for coherence. Okay, we've got communication layers, tools, memory. What about making this a real network? Security. How do agents even find each other?
Yeah, can't be an afterthought. For any kind of open network, agents need a secure identity. Even basic API key authentication is vital, as our sources point out.
Makes sense.
But discoverability is also huge. How does my agent find that repair shop agent? That's where the idea of an agent card comes in.
An agent card? Like a business card for AIs?
Kind of. It's basically a standard JSON file served at a known web address. It tells other agents, Here's who I am, here's what I can do, here's how to talk to me using A2A or ACP.
So it's like a directory and a manual rolled into one.
Exactly. It's foundational for agents to actually find and interact with each other effectively in a decentralized way.
And one last thing, debugging. AI can be unpredictable sometimes, right? Non-deterministic.
Oh, definitely. Debugging these systems is tricky. You run the same input twice, you might get slightly different reasoning paths.
So how do you figure out why it did something weird?
Robust logging and tracing are absolutely essential. You need visibility. Tools like Langsmith, which are specifically designed for LLM apps, become really important detective tools.
Gotcha. Need to see the thought process.
You really do.
Wow, okay. This deep dive really shows the future isn't just bigger AI models in isolation.
Not at all. It's about these smarter collaborative networks, specialized agents working together.
And mastering these protocols we talked about, MCP, A2A, ACP, using tools like Llama and FastAPI, that's how developers become the builders of this new infrastructure.
Yeah, you're essentially building the web servers and browsers for this coming Internet of Agents. It's fundamental work.
A really exciting time to be involved. So, thinking about everything we've covered, what stands out most to you listening in? How might you get involved in building this next era of collaborative AI? Something to think about.
Sweet. So that's like the shorter version.
Hello.
It's just like 7 minutes. The deeper dive, which is I got an actual hour of it. I think it covers maybe like 60 sources. So you're also welcome to that if you're interested. I can give you the USB drive and you can download it, or just let me know, or share it via Discord, or like base Google Docs, because Discord might limit the amount of data I can share. Aside from that, so I mostly designed the class for like beginners, so because I didn't know like who the audience would be too much. But if you have any questions about like installing or using it, just let me know and I'll help you through it, enter it to the best of my ability. So some of the MCP servers that exist right now, most of like Anthropic made a lot of them, but a bunch of people have been contributing to it. So there's a bunch of different GitHubs that you can look for. I also just recommend building your own, just because that way you know what's going into it. It's like not. Go ahead.
So I'm just trying to, because I'm kind of anti-AI, so I'm just trying to learn. So the MCP is just more like a instruction of like, this is what we're expecting out of the output, yada yada kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of. It's essentially it lets your AI communicate with whatever tool you're using, and
So
that
like
could
what
be
cursor does and stuff like that.
yeah. Essentially, yeah. It's basically like just a little middleware kind of thing. Yeah. Centralized.
So that way your language model actually has resources available to it. So when you say, go respond to my emails, it actually knows what emails are, where it can find them, and how it can respond.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's one use case. There's also MCP servers that let you read and write to your local files. I recommend sandboxing anything that you do with AI, just because that way you're not breaking anything in production. Things like that, because you could.
It could write to root and work your system.
Well, some of the uses I've seen, like even on YouTube, like the AI will start taking actions for the person, but it'll order like 7 more servers than it needs. So you gotta like really be careful, like when it's like doing like things that actually cost or financial stuff, because
It'll resource hog.
it might resource hog, but it might like hallucinate the amount or something. So like you might have to like.
It can be wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It can be wrong. But and there's plenty of like things to make it stricter and like adhere to specific rules. And it is improving every single day. I've tried. I think there's one where it like takes over your operating system and it's supposed to do things, but it's not super useful yet. It is getting more useful every day, which I think in like a year it'll probably be able to like do like just basic, not just look up this thing on the web, but like actually fill out your forms and things like that if you're not building it yourself, right? Because you could essentially do that if you're building it yourself and build out all the MCP servers and function calls that you need. The difference between a function call and an MCP server, function call is the little tiny tool. An MCP server would be like the connecting to the tool.
So you're saying it would be more useful to limit the LLM by creating functions that limit its ability in a sense? By doing those functions?
No, it would be more like giving it those functions and defining them so it actually knows what it can use too. Because it won't like use what it doesn't even know it knows it exists. All this documentation is shareable as well. I'll try and see if I can connect to one right now.
So it both makes resources available to the actual language model as well as informing it that those resources are available. Yes,
it shows them how to use them. It shows them that they're available, and it actually it starts. Depending, like now, most like Gemma 3 is really smart, and it runs on a single GPU. So that like tool using LLMs, like that, and like Quen 3, that's also a tool using LLM. Like they're becoming way more useful, and I would recommend those just because they're actually designed for tool using and that kind of thing, and actually automating stuff. But like some of them won't be. Some of them will be just like code or writing and things like that. So just watch out. Like whatever you're using it for, make sure that you're actually downloading a model that's useful towards that.
For that.
Got a little infograph too. That was kind of cute.
So are they like trying to move AI systems to be more microservice like? Because I know that the industry in general like wants microservice stuff because it's easier to dish out the money. But is also like that for LLMs too?
Well, that's where we're going.
I mean, I'm not really in the industry, so I wouldn't know. I just the things I use it for are like creative outlets. I'm basically using it to like write books, video games, and like reiterate through things and polish and edit and stuff like that. So that's how I use it.
They're also moving them more to microservice adjacent sort of design because generalized models have sort of ran their track. And so by respecializing them, you can get further output from just like a generalized model. So then if they respecialize them and then divvy up ability, right, if they service them, so that way this one handles
I have seen
stuff, send it there.
A push towards multi-agent systems where one agent is designed to perform a specific task. It's given the specific tools, right? And then there's like a router or a manager agent that basically like controls all the other agents. So like you'd have like one that's like really good at data annotation and data cleaning, right? And then that one would communicate with its manager or whatever, and then the manager would communicate with like a team lead or a tech agent and give it that specific data that it needed for whatever solution it was trying to find. That also, I think that's, but most of those, I think agent to agent is trying to solve some of that to where it's like not the same framework, and it's like not this same backbone, so it's more universal and you can communicate across different agents.
So, like with my work at Dell, one of the things that it seems like big industry giants want in the future is these agentic AI agents, which are essentially agents that operate on their own. They do things and take certain actions without needing user input, and so think of them as like little robot people doing things in the background all the time. And that's what the big players want to have, and they want to be able to sell those as services to customers. And so there's like this huge tech race going on right now with companies like Dell and Google and IBM and some other companies that are trying to race to see who's going to own that automated AI space, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think there's going to be a lot of niches, specifically depending on because just looking at like how useful some of the models are. Like Claude is really good at programming and stuff, but like Gemini is like a really good like overall model. And then they keep doing like the benchmarking things, and it just keeps changing over and over again to like who's leading the race. But overall, I think it's going to be more like I think the corporate giants are essentially going to start specializing unless they find something that like unlocks like more of a general purpose like agent. It's so far right now, like there's still, you have to like fine tune, give it like the specific data set. Like the people are still using a lot of RAG, which is not true AI stuff, right? That's just like more like a vector database and like reaching in that vector for a specific topic.
I do think they want, though, to be the generalized AI provider, because I think a lot of them believe that whoever can own that space will be the space.
No,
if that makes sense.
That's a million percent true. However, the question is, what's their appetite for failure case?
Well, I mean, I know Dell right now is going full in on agentic AI right now.
No, they're going full in. But my question is, how much can the AI fail?
Oh, like acceptable failure rate?
Yeah.
That depends.
I mean,
And so if they specialize, they can decrease their individual failure rate within a given domain.
Yes.
But if they generalize, then they have to contend with overall failure rate, and they have to get that very low before they can become.
So I
but they have
seen
a lot of resources that they're pumping into it, though.
Yes.
But everyone's pumping a lot of resources.
I think
It's gonna be
it
a
also
lot of
depends on how you manage those resources, because honestly, when you look at like how Google has been approaching some of them, like it's basically experience driven, where like if you could, instead of training off of data sets, because data is going to be limited, right? Like you can't just create infinite data or whatever. Like you're going to come to a point where you've used all the world's data. Experience based agents would probably perform much better than data trained agents. And what I mean by that is like the solve is you can endlessly play video games, right? And create something like that. But like the amount of the world data, it's going to come to a point where it can't keep playing, or it can't keep going by itself like that, right? Yeah. So I think one of the huge booms that's going to come out is like something where it's like an experience-driven agent that learns as it does things, not just from a data set.
I completely agree with you, because I've actually seen Dell do it, with some of their AI, where their focus is on having agents try to feed as much information into it and then validate that helped them or not.
And I
Because
think
the idea is that it's teaching the AI,
right,
using human interaction.
Or even like self-teaching, like an AI that self-teaches where from experience is probably going to have a lot better results if it's aligned correctly to this world, right? And that's where like AlphaGo was a huge boom compared to like previous versions of AI.
Yeah, and reinforcement learning is very powerful. However, as we've seen, reinforcement learning gets caught on edge cases consistently.
Yeah, and I think that's also like a feature limit, because like reinforcement learning, I think you just like hit a specific limit where you're just not gonna have enough real world data, which I think synthetic data sets might start to exist soon, right? And where where they're actually useful, that's the real question, right? Because if you're not creating
accurate synthetic
data, then you're just feeding your LLM or your AI, not LLMs, but your AI garbage, and then you're going to get garbage out, right? But if you feed it experience, you're going to get like wisdom out of that experience instead of just features that you've soaked out through a data set. If any of you are actually interested, that's video game stuff.
Dang it.
I play a lot of video games.
What? You never.
If you're interested in any of this, let me know. I can send it to you. This is basically an install script. I had Claude. Oh, I don't know why that's trying to read it through an ebook thing. That's not an ebook. It's a little script. It just installs Olama, things like that. I think this is mostly on Ubuntu or Mint. So, but I can also make a Windows version of this if you need it.
Thanks, Limitless.
And then, creating your own MCP servers is pretty easy. The best way to start... Best way to start would just be, I like whatever language is your favorite. I think some of the SDKs are like TypeScript, Python, things like that. I'm gonna look it up right now. And then like you can also see a bunch of them that are already created. The ones I use are mostly local stuff, just because I don't like connecting to external resources, because you do have a security point of entry there. MCP servers are pretty new and so therefore are very vulnerable as well. So keep that in mind. MCP poisoning is a very real thing. Make sure that you do everything to protect against it.
How are these communicating with the AI models? Like, what protocol does it use for an MCP to talk to it? Like, is there like a certificate, that can authenticate between them for secure communication, or is this just
MCP
plain
is the
text?
protocol. So it's MCP is the protocol that is the protocol.
So
to communicate.
it's just a protocol install of the.
It's basically just an open standard. From there, you can like expand on it and like create your own version of it.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So currently, it's not. It's just an open standard someone threw together to get it working.
Just to get it working.
There's not a lot of security.
It's
features
from
built into
Anthropic. Yeah. So Anthropic is the creator of Claude AI, which is one of the best coding agents out there. I highly recommend checking them out. They're pretty handy. Let me see if I can find
They're
a cool
depending on you
one.
putting other security controls around this. They don't treat this as something that you super need to secure on its own.
So these are like basically third-party MCP servers that
but the
all
MCP
exist.
has to talk to external tools. So
No, it does not have to. You
Okay.
can just have it locally. You can just have it like.
So you're talking about like connecting to like your Google email or whatever, right? Is that what you're asking?
I mean, I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that would be
it's
external.
using API calls.
Okay.
is what the actual MCP server itself is doing to reach the services in question. So it's using API calls, and then it's just using MCP as the protocol to talk directly to your MML or LLM.
LLM.
That's local or wherever. So it's just as secure as whatever API calls you're making normally.
There is a lot. Yes, and there is LLM poisoning as well, which is a very real thing. Corporations will basically send out poisoned data sets for you to train on, and then when you actually try to make a useful agent, it goes to crap. It could also be nation states doing this. If you have a really good security forensics team, you might actually be able to tell. But just keep that in mind that any of that could be poisoned as well. So make sure you verify and check, like some check and stuff the model. Are these local? Sorry, it's really hard to read this tiny thing.
Isn't there MCP CLI client?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can just run it locally through that.
This one's just like basically
So
the
yeah,
same
a little
thing.
bit, I
but-
think, are the local clients.
What are the usual purposes that people are putting MCP to?
I mean, it just depends on what kind of agent you're trying to create, right?
What are some examples of common ones that have been produced by other people that do specific things?
Yeah.
I mean, they're all right here.
Okay,
There's a bunch
so-
right here. This one bridges open source between AI agents. So this is like trying to be a platform. Commands, remote computer usage, out of the box. Run commands and scripts just like in terminal. Code sandbox, that's probably handy. So those are community servers. And it does come with like a run at your own risk.
8,000 apps instantly.
Yeah.
Phone numbers configure your
Oh, so you
accounts.
could do like
Or-
crypto trading.
Yeah,
Yes.
blockchain, other stuff, yeah.
Yes,
So
There's
basically,
automatically, or I guess you could just tell it to execute like a trade.
You can do pretty much anything you want. You just gotta make
Yeah.
a choice.
You either create it yourself or use someone else's, but using someone else's comes with risk because it's not as controlled.
yeah, anything that you can do on the web and therefore has an API for itself, this can hook into.
Yeah, and there is a lot of security risk when it comes to LLMs. Like they're not
inherently
They're not-
secure.
they don't have a lot of like the security stuff that like a lot of the other web stuff or a lot of the internet has had because they're so new too.
Also because even if you're running a full stack internal, like you're downloading a thing off the web from someone you're trusting and running to connect into an MCP that you either set up yourself or trusted someone else to download and set up. There's a lot of trust in that.
Would agentic
Okay.
AI use MCP like this?
Yes, I have used it to save and edit local. Like I'm basically creating Cursor on my own, like so that it's like my version of Cursor and it's free, right? So I can just have a iterative coding agent that actually tests the code, says, "Oh, you fucked up somewhere here." Sorry for my language. I don't have a filter. And then it like actually fixes the bug, which is cool, right? Because it can actually like keep talking to itself and tests instead of just like you having to tell it, "Oh, I came up with an error. Try this again." Came up like in the back and forth. It's a lot less, right? So that's a huge use case, at least for me. Aside from that, you can also like I was looking at like Google's voice APIs so that you could essentially run a call center through it. Be like, okay, I want Tech Buddy to talk with to the Google API, and the person sends them like a picture of what they're trying to troubleshoot, it actually runs like a research thing. It's like, okay, hold on a sec while I research. It's doing all this research behind the scenes. It might talk to the person, give them like all like a connecting thing, like a normal tech support agent would, right? Because you have to build rapport, things like that.
So to flesh out your question of like what resources are you using, in the example of like a tech support agent, you're using MCP to connect through the Google Voices API in order to handle the phone call.
Yes.
You're using image recognition for whatever number they sent it to in order to process that image and interpolate it and then process it through the model.
Right, but that would still probably be under Gemini or, yeah.
There's some that handle internally, some you might need the MCP.
Yeah.
And then the MCP, probably you're clicking into some sort of KB or knowledge base to have it search through to like solve the problem in question and pull helpful resources for itself. Right. So those are some examples of things you'd hook this MCP server into in this situation.
Yes. So they're available TypeScript, Python, Java, C. Is that Sharp? I can't.
Yeah, C#. And the other one was Kotlin.
Kotlin. I don't use any of those. I just use Python and TypeScript. Just because that's
easy.
What I've learned is JavaScript and Python. But you could, reverse engineer that too and essentially build your own version of it with better features specific to your use case.
But I've always had like this kind of general thought, the amount of I guess time you're saving, quote unquote, right?
Okay.
Because there's always this push to learn AI now and learn how to do these stuff now. But if the models are just gonna get easier to use and get more manageable, why learn it now? Because
you would be the person to actually be able to fix them when they get messed up. There's even if you're feature extracting intelligence out of data sets, there's still going to be clogs in that intelligence in certain aspects and things because the way the current system works, we're still inherently installing our human biases into those systems, which they're still going to need debugging and troubleshooting even when they get larger and smarter.
And to give a counter argument for just computers, right? If some people said in the 80s, learn computers now because computers will be everywhere, right? And some people listened and some people didn't. And so was it valuable to learn computers in the 80s? Yes. Are computers very different now than they were in the 80s? Yes. Does a lot of that information still transfer to how computers function now? At a base level, yes. So.
Any other questions or concerns? We can also open up to discussion.
How hard is it to install an MCP?
It is incredibly easy. It's super easy. It's like JSON, I think, and then maybe a one-line terminal thing. You're just okay, I install the dependency.
It also depends on what resources you're hooking it into.
Yes, that for sure.
Right. If you're just giving it local file access, then it's probably 1 or 2 lines in terminal. But if you're trying to get it to hook into your Google Voices example, you have to go to Google, get their API,
Sorry, I can barely read this. Maybe this is better. I think in here, I think you just go to Ollama if you're using Ollama, and then go to the model config file, and in that model config file, it's just JSON, and you put what servers it has access to, and it'll do it. So that's how easy it is. It's not super complicated. If you're just doing it locally. And then if you're using your own resources, that'll probably look different, right? Because I'm sure Intel uses its specific thing. I think this is just an agent I was working on. Also, giving the agents roles and personalities will make them perform a lot better, specifically to your use case. I've had a lot better experience giving them like how they're supposed to interact with people, how you treat them right, and things like that. So, prompt engineering wise, there's a bunch of things you can do to improve performance, right? Prompt engineering, RAG, MCP servers, and then you could look at efficiency stuff, and then like fine tuning, right? So like there's various layers that you can use. Go ahead.
And I can understand as like the aspect of prompt engineering for like interacting with like end users or external things. Totally fair. What's your experience using MCP when you're just interacting with internal like databases or code or whatever? Does giving it a personality make it better at querying the SQL database?
In a way, yes. So like if you're saying like act like you've had experience in this for 5 years, it actually kind of improves compared to like just telling it to do the thing. So it just kind of gives it like a closer shell almost. I'm not sure how to describe it.
Okay.
But maybe I'm just like human biases, you know. This is
You're
the
not
way I
exactly
think.
comprehensive data.
No, I've always thought of it as like when you just ask it raw, you're just like throwing like an entire flashlight, you're looking at everything. But when you like kind of like isolate it, you're kind of making that scope smaller.
Yeah, and you gotta also remember that LLMs, they're predictive. Like they're basically guessing what's gonna come next, right? So like you're it's like a statistics thing. So if you're really looking for like a more closed in thing, you gotta lower your scope, and you gotta be able to know what your scope is and things like that. So, yeah, definitely pay attention to that when you're looking at those things. Sorry if I'm so super vague. I try to be way more technical, but like, yeah, my brain is
It's probably.
just works like that.
Probably need coffee.
Yes, coffee at 9.
Mm-hmm.
I do not remember
Just before I go to
where.
sleep. No, true fact, when I was a kid, I would drink coffee and I would just go to sleep.
That's called ADHD.
Oh. Wow. That's
I think that is a thing.
No, it's 100% a thing.
It is a thing, but also like coffee's a dehydrator, so if you don't drink any water, it just makes you sleepy too.
Oh, okay.
So like if you have like an energy drink and you drink no water, you'll have like less of an effect.
Oh, I can't do energy drinks. It shuts me up. Which isn't a bad thing depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, so it quiets the mind demons.
No. I stopped talking. That's what I mean. So, I make.
Sorry, I did this on Windows and I'm trying to do it on Linux now.
Live demo, woo!
Yeah.
I mean, the Linux should be easy.
Do I have it in Discord?
Yeah.
I do. Oh yeah, I did for the ramen thing. Which we don't
Ramen.
get
Which
to
I didn't
go.
get to, but
Decline, right? Yeah, that was messed up.
so I'll run it by MacBook.
The reason I recommend running Olama locally is just because it's super lightweight. It actually gets things done. LM Studio, not as useful. It's kind of clunky. it's still a great resource, right? Especially if you're a beginner. But I don't think there's a lot of beginners in this class, which I tried to design it for beginners, so sorry.
I thought it was a good explanation.
Sweet. I'm trying to find the exact place.
To be fair, especially in this case, you get a random grab bag of whoever, so.
Yeah.
You could have gotten a bunch of news, you could have gotten a bunch of people who've done this forever, so.
With Olama, so it just depends on like your documentation, right? So you'd like go through, there's a model file that you can edit, but the main thing is the config file, which when you're talking to the agent like via terminal, you can just be like set system prompt and set it that way.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you want to actually save it, and each time you do run it, it will load up each server, so it might take a sec. And that would be just like learning to optimize that, right? But yeah,
Thanks for stopping by.
let me know if you want to see anything or test anything else.
Appreciate it, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out.
Some work to do.
Also, when you're going through this, read, documentation. That's how you actually learn how to use stuff, which is handy.
Reading documentation.
I used to not read any documentation and just try to dive into stuff, but yeah, I learned the hard way.
Too many times.
Yeah, especially with AWS.
Helps to understand why things are the way they are.
Yes, that helps a lot.
What I find the value of documentation is it tells you why it's that way.
9 times out of 10 the answer is because Jeff said so.
Initialize capability, negotiation version, normal protocol communication.
Jeff waits for no one.
So this is kind of what it looks like, right? This will be like, I think it says like the thing it needs. So most of the servers I've been running are like npm. It'll be like npm. It'll give it like the method, and then it'll give it parameters and things like it can actually use, that kind of thing. So it's mostly just JSON is what I've worked with. I'm sure there's like other versions of it, but at least through Olama, it's just JSON, which is pretty easy. Streamable stuff is really handy. So like when you have like a chat agent or something like where you're not able to show the entire text output, but you can show it like that it's working slowly at a time, just because that way it's like still engaging the end user.
Gotta show them dots, make you think it's working.
What do you mean show them dots?
Like when you're typing.
And I think this is like what you were talking
little
about as
dots.
authorization.
Yeah,
so
that's what he's saying. You gotta give them them little dots in your chat window so they think it's doing stuff.
You need the spinning circle.
Right.
they do support different types of authorization in there. There's like OAuth stuff. Is that kind of clear?
Mm-hmm.
So that's mostly how they're handling it, but
Yeah, that's
I'm
what-
sure you could also like, have your own version of it depending on your company, because they might have different standards and
And so
things
you
that they
could-
need.
And so I mean, because because it's open, you could theoretically build an authentication layer on top of it, so that way the model actually authenticates with the server in question.
Yes.
However, no one's really cared to do that because,
Yeah. Security best practices. Definitely go through this. I don't have any more like talking material, but I do have other stuff and extras. I also have a podcast I made about this topic. So if you'd like to have that, I can send it to you, or you can download it with the USB drive I have.
I know he's a podcast bro.
But yeah, that pretty much concludes my class. Anything else you guys want to add, or? Oh yeah, how could I improve this class? Let me know.
I mean, on the given topic, it seems pretty solid.
Oh, silly me.
Only thing I can think of to improve it would be to have like a working sample.
Yeah,
That'd be nice,
I can
but-
make one right now. I just the problem, and I can
I
show
know
it
it's
to
a
you
lot of
there.
work, I'm just saying.
I just